There is no playbook for your interview.
The person who was interviewing with me fell asleep.
We started talking, and she kept asking me, did you apply to this school? Did you apply to this other school? I felt so on the defensive.
Well, what are your goals? And the applicant said, well, I want to go into finance. And this person unloaded, like, why would you want to go into finance?
Right.
Like, and the applicant was shocked and really didn't know what to do.
So this isn't a performance. This isn't a speech where you can just focus on the presentation versus the self-awareness.
We're here at mbaMission, and we're talking about interview stories today. Devi and Jeremy, what are some of yours?
Well, I'll start with, something that happened to me when I was an applicant.
Right.
And that's really informed why I take my role as interviewer in residence so seriously. So I applied to a particular school for MBA and got the interview, and I was such an eager beaver.
Right.
I signed up for first thing Monday morning.
Right.
And I thought, I'm going to be the first one that they interview, fresh. It's like, students right now, they game the timing.
Right.
That was naive, and I did the same thing, and now really it doesn't matter. So I go in, and it was like one of my top choices. We started talking, and she kept asking me, did you apply to this school? Did you apply to that school?
Right.
Did you apply to this other school? And I was there were no interview guides at that point in terms of online. There was nothing, and I felt so on the defensive.
Right.
And so I said, well, I didn't want to go to that school, so I didn't apply. Like I was just so in hindsight, I was so naive and honest.
Right.
And I said, well, I didn't want to go. I actually really want to go here.
Yeah.
And so I don't think that's what she either didn't believe me or didn't. That's not what you're supposed to say or whatever.
Right.
And then after that, she kept looking away and looked at her watch and and I could just feel in the pit of your know that this is going south.
The decision has been made, and at that point,
nothing I can say, and you still have that smile on your face, and you're just like the old vaudeville where they put that thing, that cane around
hook
you.
And then
exactly. Yeah. That's how I felt. I'm like, I could see my whole life crumble before me.
I guess that speaks to something that people have to understand, which is that there's an element of randomness to this.
Absolutely.
You may click with one person. You may click with 7 out of 8 people, and you may just have the bad luck to not click with someone, or that person. Maybe you don't even click. Maybe you perceive you're not clicking with one person.
That's exactly right.
Or maybe that person just had a bad day. Like this isn't specifically a Harvard story.
No, this isn't a Harvard story.
But I remember at another school, an applicant. It was after the financial crisis, an applicant went to a school to do an interview with the school that had alumni interviewers, and they said, the person said, well, what are your goals? And the applicant said, well, I want to go into finance. And this person sadly had been laid off and was struggling to find work and just unloaded. Why would you want to go into finance?
Right.
It became deeply personal for this individual, and the applicant was shocked and really didn't know what to do and just was disoriented.
Right.
And the applicant went back to the school and just said, look, I feel like you can do that. If you really have something you can say, anecdotally,
that's true,
is just not appropriate in your interview. I don't think this person had malice. I think this person was just wrapped up in their world. Go back to school and say, look, I interviewed with this person. It was a little unusual. It wasn't what I was expecting. It seemed deeply personal.
Yep.
And we see that at other schools, at many schools. Eventually, you see it at all of them.
I myself had an experience with a client of mine at, again, one of the top schools in the country, and they started asking him something about his religion, and they started even...
I remember this.
Yeah, and they even kept on pushing a little bit more. I mean, truly, on the one hand, he truly was inappropriate. On the other hand, the reason it happened is because they're having a great conversation, and it reached some level of intimacy.
Right.
In any case, he ended up getting re-interviewed. I mean, he was very upfront about it again. Got re-interviewed, and at that point, he decided not to go there.
No,
for this very reason.
So.
Yeah.
And I think in terms of there, you say randomness, and I say the human element.
Right.
The other person is still a person,
right?
And you have to be able to be nimble in how you respond. And and there's nothing I think I would have done differently or could have done differently in my situation. But it's important to read the room. It's important to see how they're doing.
That's right.
Without taking it personally.
Right. Which is hard.
And one thing to keep in mind, HBS introduced maybe about a decade ago the post-interview reflection. I think largely because the interview experience felt like it was high stakes. Felt like it was high stakes. People we're preparing, but maybe again, it's at pains say it's not a gotcha interview, but sort of felt like their interviewer was jumping around a little bit and was like, trying to ask about a bunch of different things in a short period of time, and they gave I believe they gave that post-interview reflection as an opportunity for people to really just sort of be at peace.
I agree.
I'm not sure that I'm not sure that anyone is getting in or not getting in because of the post-interview reflection. I think it's almost like just like a, hey, you went through this, let's give you
the last word.
If you want to be one of our success stories, sign up for a free consultation with a member of our full-time MBA admissions team. Since we've worked with tens of thousands of applicants over the past 2 decades, we can give you our honest opinion on your chances and help you put together your very best application. That is not a sales call, but rather your first session with one of us for free. We can give you a profile evaluation, answer specific questions about the process, review your resume, talk about your school choices, and so much more. Sign up at mbaMission.com/consult. We look forward to working with you.
Also, in terms of if they think that there is some kind of like, I'm going to get back at my interviewer or whatever, when they calm down and really realize, they probably ask some good questions. Do you know what I mean? In terms of like,
absolutely.
And so it's the last word both in perception and reality, and also to correct because it is so fast-paced and there's no playbook, right? There is no playbook for your interview.
Right, of course. So I have to tell you, Debbie, that question that you were asked, did you apply here? Did you apply there? Or more frequently, what other schools did you apply to? Is not an infrequent question. So let's pause here and say, how does one answer that question?
Right. I mean, I think that you're basically looking at that and you're saying, okay, I don't want to make it seem like I am have low expectations of myself, and so if I'm at a school that's you basically have to pick peers, and I mean otherwise, you're saying like, look, I consider I consider myself to be of this tier, and I'm at this tier, which is it's really a silly question.
It is. I wish they wouldn't ask it because I don't know what they gain from it, to be honest, because either they tell the truth and the school's not happy with it, and then they fib, and what value is it? What's the point of that? So please.
It's valueless. Very quickly here. When
I usually say you can turn around and talk about why you like that school.
I was going to say, when you say peer schools, you certainly want to make sure that this school is, a urban school versus another urban school, a school having finance versus another school that's having finance, sort of the, Tuck or NYU. Well, they are very different schools.
Right.
So you really have to pause again.
And maybe there's a world in which you can explain that, but like you want to be, thoughtful in what you're saying. You want to be picking up peer school and saying, look, as I've considered my options, there's a group of schools that I've applied to, and you probably are picking peer schools. Theoretically, you're picking, you're at Chicago and you're picking Columbia and MIT or something like that.
I think that's a function of not training your interviewers properly.
Yeah, no, that makes sense. Jeremy, I understand you also have another story to share.
Yeah, I mean, there's one that I can speak to, and it actually goes to almost to what Devi was talking about before, where really impressive young woman. Her sister went to Harvard. She was interviewing at Harvard. She felt a lot of pressure. She wanted to interview on day one, and I was like, I think that you're not listening to my advice. I think you're not realizing that you need
how much preparation.
That you need some preparation. And we did a mock interview. I gave this person feedback. I told her that I thought that she needed to do a lot more many more. She said she was doing them with her sister. I was like, okay, that's okay, I guess. But I'm feeling uneasy about where you are. I don't feel like you're developing your stories well. And even this individual's essays, this person was very much focused on telling the admissions committee what she thought they should hear as opposed to who she was. And she was doing that in her interviews, which is a big no-no. Or in her mock interviews, she was. I was like, that's not the experience you shared with me. She's like, my sister told me. Anyway. There was a lot of obfuscation, a lot of bad information. Devi always says, stay off the message boards. And
gets you in trouble.
And this person ultimately, just didn't get into HBS. And admittedly, I wasn't the least bit surprised. I was disappointed. But I felt like this person was paying for advice that she wasn't listening to. And she had been admitted 2 + 2 to the GSB.
Yeah.
She's going to be fine.
She's going to be fine.
She's going to be fine. I'd worked with her earlier on her GSB application 2 years earlier, and she was going to be fine. But, again, even at that point, she got into the GSB and was still sometimes fighting my advice. Strong-willed person.
Yeah.
I like her a lot.
Right.
But ultimately just didn't listen to me, saying, like, you've got to stop pandering and start sharing yourself.
Right.
And like, I think that's good advice for anyone. I think everyone has to just try to. We talk about this a lot, just trying to get to the point where you are, there's some controlled spontaneity. You can think about your story, you know what you want to say, but you're also saying it in the moment. It's not rehearsed. You're sharing, like we do on this podcast here.
Right.
How about you, Harold? Anything in particular that you can share?
Sure. I think one story in particular that I'm still disappointed about is a client of mine who simply did not know his story. At the end of the day, I'd been working with him for quite a long time. We had really tried to figure out the story that really spoke to all of his different strengths. And when he went into the interview, it's almost like he forgot all of the work that we had done. And I think part of the reason is he was reading the message boards, having his father interview him. Mind you, his father had never gone to business school, let alone the fact he was his father, and had simply forgotten what he had said, what he had told them about what his story was. The usual.
So that's nerves, that's understandable.
Exactly.
And this guy, he'll be okay. It's okay.
Oh yeah, I mean, listen, I can start sharing names, but he got into a better school, so I think that's it. I think that's
and sometimes it takes that. Sometimes it takes like being knocked around in 1 or 2 interviews to be able to figure it out. I remember Dee Leopold, the former HBS director of admissions, was a friend of Devi's. She once said to me that if I were you, I would tell your applicants to go and do the like free interview at Tuck. Just go to get some reps, go to get some practice, go to feel it. And she's like, I don't think Tuck would be happy with me saying that, but they had an open interview policy at the time, and she was like, it's just good to get a few interviews under your belt so you can feel comfortable. It's like, wow, that's
no, it's so true,
chess.
and that's exactly why I do what I do, because when I was at HBS and I was that last person, you're just like, oh my God. Like, it's that it's so sad when they are imploding. And and they have a strong resume, they have a strong, candidacy. And something they're just not ready to meet that moment in terms of presentation. But you can only present if you know yourself. Do you know what I mean? In terms of, this isn't a performance, this isn't a speech where you can just focus on the presentation versus the self-awareness. And so it's so sad when you can see the interview just going south. And even in my intensives, that happens in terms
of course.
And then it gets better. But people don't realize that the reps in terms of how many reps you really do need. It's no different than the essays. Your essays didn't come together in 2 drafts, 3 drafts, probably a lot more than that.
Yeah. Well, and a good interview takes stamina as well. I think one of the reasons to prep for your interviews is to understand how long 30 minutes can be. And at the end of the day, it could be a good amount of time. This could be a very dynamic conversation. Everyone is not necessarily up for that every single day. But just to leave here, I want to share with you a great story for myself. It was not a business school interview. It was admissions. It was a consulting company interview. The person who was interviewing with me fell asleep. Actually fell asleep, and I'm sitting there and he is sleeping. So at that point, you don't know what to do. The answer is, I did not get an offer from them. I did get an offer from Bain & Company, where I did go, and the admissions committee, the consulting firm that I interviewed with, does not exist anymore. So if if your interviewers are falling asleep while they're interviewing people, it is not a good sign.
I think that's the first time I've heard an audible gasp on our podcast.
I know, but if that happens in your MBA interview, call the admissions office.
Absolutely, no question about it. Well, Devi, Jeremy, thank you very much. I'm Harold, and by all means, give us a call. Have your free consult with us.
Exciting news! You can now access On Track by mbaMission for free. Take our 2-minute onboarding questionnaire to personalize your learning path. Choose the free plan, and you'll have unlimited access to our complete modules on MBA application timelines, standardized testing, your professional background, community leadership, school selection, and more. You'll also get access to select lessons from our brainstorming, personal statement, essay, resume, and recommendation modules. It's a great introduction to the OnTrack platform and will help you jumpstart the MBA application process. Get started today at ontrack.mbaMission.com.